There's a lot in here. And like I said before, I've had a chance to go through some of it, make some notes, and then I'm just going to be shaking my head at some of this. I'm going to be asking you some questions and what you think about some of this. You know, yeah, I tell you, I'm a little bit older now. And so maybe it's just me, but I tend to be a little bit more, um, I see more issues. And maybe part of it has to do with me being an attorney too. So some people will see things and they may not see a problem. I'll see things and I'll be like, okay, that's a problem. Step away from that. And I tell people all the time, go with your gut instinct. If you feel like something is not what it should be, if you're feeling red flags, feeling like somebody is not quite right, I tell people all the time, go with your gut instinct, because usually your gut instinct is right about something and it is not going to let you down. It's usually based on experiences to some extent that you have already had. And so now you're back in the situation where your brain remembers that experience that you went to way back up in there, it's hardwired in, and you might not make the connection immediately. So I tell my clients all the time, if it feels funny, it probably is funny, and you need to walk away from it. And that's exactly how I feel about that. I have too many clients that come to me after the fact and say, you know what? I knew something didn't feel right about that. I didn't kind of like the way the person was doing this or that, the way the person was moving. But yeah, okay, so here we are with this lawsuit. As you see here, I just went over Tyrone A. Blackburn, the lawyer for the woman who is accusing him of defamation. And the other piece of this, I think the other piece is sort of the big piece, but none of this might not have even come forth if there hadn't been the video that he sort of put out where he started talking and then went down this road to talk about this incident. I'm not sure she would have stepped back up to even respond to that and then to go forward with this lawsuit. It remains to be seen. All right, so she is asking for a jury trial here. She is suing DJ Akademiks. Livingston Allen is the name that he actually goes by. And some does here, persons who have yet to be formally identified, and then ABC corporations too. Now you probably wonder, well, hey, why are the businesses in here? Well, maybe it's because she is alleging that one of these does actually works for him. And so, yes, we're not just going to sue him, we are going to sue his company also. So there you go. So I started with a short video a couple of days ago about this just introduction section, trying to figure out who called whom, because here in this introduction, first paragraph, first sentence, literally I'm running into issues here because it says Defendant Allen contacted Ms. Abashe, and I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. You can correct me in the comments if you know. He contacted her and invited her to come to his house and visit him in New Jersey. Now, if you go to his video that I think was published on YouTube in December, I want to say December, he says that she contacted him and, he sent the Uber or Lyft or whatever to pick her up. So I'm like, here I am starting off with this complaint and we can't even get right who called whom. I don't know. But and I've made a few notes here. Yeah, it's like who reached out to whom here. It says, even though it had been almost a year since they last saw each other, this was July 2022, Ms. Abashe did not suspect any ill intentions and agreed. She was accustomed to visiting Mr. Allen at his home in New Jersey, and Mr. Allen would send a car to pick her up. Ms. Abashe lives in Pennsylvania. And so what does my note say here? My note said, it says, I believe he paid for the trip. Does that help us understand? Right. So, yeah, I think as was customary in their arrangement, he paid for it, is my understanding. And I think he may have also discussed that part of it in the YouTube video and how much he paid. But there you go. On the day of the incident, Ms. Abashe arrived to enjoy her evening. Little did she know that defendant Livingston Allen, and his two accomplices, John Doe's 1 and John Doe's 2, would, and as you see, and so there are going to be some instances in this where I don't necessarily say some things because, you can read it there, number one. And number two, YouTube just gets all funny about some of these things. The morning after the incident, Ms. Abashe was unaware of what happened. She only became aware after Mr. Allen showed her surveillance footage of, and as you can see what's going on there. And so I had some sort of questions about this part because, this whole incident, she's alleging that there were two men involved outside in the pool area, and then Mr. Allen was later involved. And so she says the morning after the incident, she was unaware of what happened. I almost feel like that should have said something like she was unaware of the details of what had happened, because you're stating in here that something happened, that there are bruises on your body, and yet it it almost leaves the impression that she doesn't feel pain or anything else in any other areas. And I'm trying to be sensitive in how I say this. I don't want to put words into her mouth here. But she doesn't cover the part of, hey, so some guys kind of did some stuff that I didn't really want them to do. And maybe this morning I'm feeling some pain in places where I didn't expect to feel some pain. And I'm kind of like, what's going on? So that's sort of where the questions were coming into me. Like, this says the morning after the incident, she was unaware of what happened. She only became aware after Mr. Allen showed her surveillance footage. So you're waking up and you're not thinking, oh, I feel kind of weird. I go to the restroom, I wipe, something doesn't feel, why do I feel sore? Why do I feel pain? Why do I feel a certain kind of way? And so she was unaware. And it also makes you wonder too, because we're going to see later on in this where she talks about possibly them putting drugs in the drink. So did this impact, how she was feeling, her sensitivity at that moment in time? She's waking up in the morning after the incident and she's unaware until he shows her this surveillance footage. On the pool deck, she was in shock and fearful of the reality of what had occurred. It set in. In the aftermath, it says she reported Mr. Allen and his accomplices' actions to the police. Now, remember, this is just the introduction. We're going to get into the details in just a second. Okay, so they performed the kit that is providing some evidence here. And again, this is all going to be evidence that can be brought up during trial. This is all can be used. Now, if you saw the video, he did say a lot about, hey, they didn't charge me with anything. Well, first of all, I was pulling up some statistics. 63% of these things don't even get reported. That's according to the National SA Resource Center. Okay. Over 60% don't even get reported. Part of this has to do with whether or not the person who reported it wants to go forward. And it says right here, she chose silence and remained silent. So just because there were not charges and law enforcement and the court system did not move forward doesn't mean that they did not have enough evidence to move forward. We don't know. Like, this is an unanswered question of why that did not take place. It says, since reporting what happened, she chose silence and remained silent until on or about December 30th, 2023. He took to social media and defamed her. He accused her of voluntarily engaging in this with his friends at his home while maintaining that he never participated at all. Remember, this is the introduction. We're going to get into the details in just a minute. Took to social media. Now, think about that for a second. He's got this hour-long plus video out there, and another one, I believe, too. And she has her video response also. All of this is going to be information that they can use to tease out what he's saying that's true or that's not true. There were cameras, this happened, I said this, she said that. All of these statements that he's already made because he's been very public about it. Okay? It says this led to a spew of public slander as his account of what happened spread like wildfire on multiple media outlets. Now, suppose he had just said nothing. We might not even be here. Suppose he had said nothing. As detailed below, Mr. Allen made several public statements defaming Ms. Abashe surrounding the events. She was filled with anger, and all the suppressed, painful memories of that horrific night resurfaced. So she's saying that in the beginning, she wasn't quite on top of some things. She had to see this footage. And then as he talked about some things started coming back. That's what she says. In her state of anger, she released a video addressing his involvement with what happened. When her account was published, Mr. Allen lashed out with false statements. He denied involvement, even though upon information and belief, Mr. Allen's, and you can see there, was discovered on the kit. Now, let me just stop there for a second, because at that point, what you're thinking is, first of all, how do you know it's his? I mean, it's his house, right? We don't know yet. Again, this is just the introduction. We're going to get deeper into the facts in just a second. It's his house, so probably his, don't know yet. Could it be something that belonged to the two John Does? I mean, you tell me, is this something that you carry around with you just in case? And what else was discovered in that? Like, this is the only thing that's mentioned. And so was this the only thing? Were there other things? But, she says the evidence is there. All of this is going to come out when there is a trial here. Mr. Allen and his two accomplices severely injured her, causing significant physical and psychological pain and suffering, loss of dignity, and invasion of her privacy. His public statements added to the harm she was already silently suffering with. So again, it brings you back to this question of, would she have stayed quiet had he not said anything? Had he not brought this up? Would this have been that other percent, that 37% that never gets reported? Remember, I said 63% never gets reported. So hers did, though. Hers did. She went to the police the next morning after this happened.